With, social media, anyone and everyone can participate, which is both beautiful and a little bit frustrating at times. So everyone has the opportunity to tell their own story. Unfortunately, just the way social media works, the audience kind of decides whose stories get to be heard.
What was your time like on Love on the Spectrum? How did you find out about it? What compelled you to participate? Anything that you want to share about it?
It really wasn't that incredible of a story. I watched the Australian version. I thought it was fantastic. I sent an email, I did a couple of Zoom interviews, and things just moved very, very quickly. When people ask how it felt, typically I describe it as feeling sweaty, because you get nervous and your armpits start to sweat. And it was a very sweaty experience, but that doesn't mean it wasn't worth it. There were certainly parts that were challenging because you get thrown into new circumstances, you're meeting new people, you've got a camera crew in your bedroom asking you very personal questions. But I don't know. I was just kind of along for the ride, I guess.
There's an ongoing debate online about whether the show is like quote unquote exploitative for neurodivergent or autistic folks or a good representation of the community.
They told us, this is not a paid opportunity. This is participation in a docuseries, and as such, there is no compensation for that, and everybody was okay with it. And then in terms of representation, my thought has always been that when you gather a group of, say, 10 or so people, you're not going to hope that those 10 or so people are going to accurately reflect all the possibilities within one big group of people. And I think with more seasons being filmed, they'll be able to add more diverse perspectives. And additionally, on top of that, I also kind of think it will inspire more filmmakers to explore this area of neurodiversity and inspire people to make more, pieces of media surrounding autism.
I think traditionally, we all know there's been little to no media representation of people on the spectrum. And when there is, folks have often, been misrepresented or stereotyped. What do you think, as someone who has autism, do you think there's been any progress in recent years? What do you think is the biggest misrepresentation or something that people usually get wrong when they're portraying people on the spectrum?
I would say that progress in recent years has certainly been made, but I think at this point it's more about quantity than it is about quality. I think quality will come, but quantity has to be first. And I guess to answer that last part of your question, I kind of believe that the genius stereotype is way, way overdone. We've got Sheldon Cooper, we've got the good doctor, we've got Rain Man. And the unfortunate part about that is only about 10% of autistic people are said to have an advanced IQ. So I talk a lot on my social media about folks with profound autism, which is a distinction being made with people who are, traditionally what they would say as more on the severe end of the spectrum, and with a co-occurring intellectual disability, so IQ less than 50. These are folks who cannot speak for themselves. And so I would say in an ideal world, we tell those stories. Those are stories that are both not told by themselves and are just not told, period. There are some harsh realities that can accompany an autism diagnosis, whether you have high support needs or low support needs. And I think it would be important to kind of see those brought to life in a respectful way.
I'm curious to hear what you think about what the role has been that social media has played in shaping like public perception of autism and neurodivergent folks.
I think it's been a mix. With, social media, anyone and everyone can participate, which is both beautiful and a little bit frustrating at times. So everyone has the opportunity to tell their own story. Unfortunately, just the way social media works, the audience kind of decides whose stories get to be heard. And so by nature of that, the algorithms are going to kind of naturally select the more simplistic and less nuanced pieces of content that float around about autism. But the flip side of that is, like I was saying earlier, people whose stories are historically not told are having the chance to be seen and heard for the first time. I've got content that kind of fits into two frameworks. The first one being awareness. A lot of times I'll talk about an issue that pertains to the autism community that I feel is not spoken about enough or is not widely understood. The other kind of facet that my social media kind of goes down is the actionable one, where I'm giving them in the moment tools and strategies that they can use, like I said, in the moment to kind of help somebody either move on from perseverating or to help them cope with change or to help them deal with a meltdown.
That's awesome. And I think that it's really cool that now with social media, so many people can get access to these things, can watch these videos. Tell me about your book, because that's a really, really big deal.
It's the book that professionals in 2007 told my parents I would never be able to read, much less write, and it was published last September. The reason for writing the book was that I had spent the better part of the last 2 or 3 years creating all this content, all this information. So I decided to put it all in a book, so it's all in one place, and it's available on Amazon, it's available on Barnes& Noble online, and I think some libraries are carrying it as well. The title of my book being Life on the Bridge, it reflects my goal in that I am hoping to be a bridge between the worlds of autistic people and those who support us. And with my content, I'm kind of hoping that I can create other bridges out there in the autism community that other people will also feel compelled, if they desire to kind of go down this path, to bridge our worlds together because we're more alike than we are different. And it's just a matter of organizing information in an accessible way.